Good afternoon, Honorable Principal of Bahana College, Dr. Ethnographic ma'am, Honorable Guest of Honor, Professor Akhil Dutta sir, Coordinator of IQAC, Dr. Pankaj Bora, conveners of this workshop, and of course our guests and participants. I am Vikram Bora. I teach history at Bahana College, and please allow me to welcome you all to the valedictory session of this week-long national workshop, organized by Bahana College and Sutia Jatiyo Gobekona Porikha. Throughout the preceding week, we have had some extraordinarily engaging and stimulating sessions with experts from a diverse range of fields and disciplines. And I hope the wide range of expertise shared by our speakers and resulting dialogues have unlocked new avenues of understanding and new tools of investigation for our participants in their repertoire of research. And without straying into any tangential thoughts, let me straightaway dive into the agenda of the valedictory session. First, for the welcome address, we have with us Dr. Khandana Paikya, the Honorable Principal of Bahana College. She has been one of the primary driving force behind the success of this workshop with her constant support and counsel. And we hope she would accept our gratitude by welcoming our guest of honor and saying a few words of encouragement to our participants and organizers alike. Ma'am.
Thank you, Vikram. Good afternoon. I would like to begin by apologizing because the connectivity in my office seemed to be a little poor. So I'm sorry for the delay of 5 minutes. Please excuse me. And I'm very happy to be back again to welcome you all to this last and valedictory session of this 7-day seminar, workshop on research methodology on ethnographic study. And it is my privilege and pleasure to welcome the guest of honor, Dr. Akhil Dutta, Professor and former HOD, Department of Political Science, Gauhati University. Thank you for joining us. He is also our guest speaker today. So once again, sir, welcome and thank you. And I would like to thank Dr. Hujjo Sutia for this wonderful collaboration with your organization. And of course, all the participants and all the resource persons, this week has been very interesting and informative. I've tried to follow as far as I could, but for the rest, I've asked my IQAC team to record. And I'm sure the participants will have many takeaways from this workshop. And I thank you all again for joining us, because without you participants, this would not have been possible, and we look forward to engaging with you more. But let me not speak more, because we are all waiting to listen to Professor Dutta. So welcome again, sir, and I leave the stage and the mic to you. Over to you, Bikram. Thank you. Thank you again on behalf of my college. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next, we have a few words from the organizers. For this, I request Dr. Pankaj Bora. Dr. Bora is the coordinator of IQAC Bahana College, in addition to being a convener of this workshop. Sir.
Thank you, Bikram. Honorable Principal of Bahana College, Dr. Santana Sekia ma'am. Honorable former HOD and Professor of Department of Political Science, my PhD supervisor, Professor Akhil Dutta sir, respected participants, and my dear colleagues. Good afternoon and welcome to this valedictory session of our workshop on research methodology for ethnographic study. It is an honor to stand before you today as we bring this enlightening event to a close. Over the past few days, we have embarked on an incredible journey of exploration and knowledge sharing with 10 technical sessions, 2 peer discussion sessions, and 6 assignment sessions, and of course, 1 inspiring inaugural sessions. Throughout this workshop, we have explored deep into the world of ethnographic research, uncovering its methodologies, challenges, best practices. We have had the privilege of learning from esteemed experts in the field who have generously shared their wisdom and experiences, providing us with invaluable insights and guidance. The technical sessions, peer discussions, and assignments have been carefully designed to enhance our understanding of ethnographic research. We have explored various topics such as participant observation, interviewing techniques, data analysis, ethical consideration, etc. Engaging in peer discussions allowed us to exchange ideas, challenges, and perspectives, and foster a collaborative environment for intellectual growth. The assignments provided us with practical opportunities to apply our knowledge and refine our research skills. As we reflect on our collective achievements, it is crucial to recognize the significance of valedictory session. Today, we are honored to have Professor Dutta Sir, a distinguished scholar in the field of political science and ethnographic research, who will share his deliberation with us. His presence and insights will undoubtedly inspire us to continue our research work with unwavering dedicated and strive for quality publication. Sir, contribution to the research have not only been advanced in boundaries of knowledge, but also have served as an example of inspiration for researchers like us. His wisdom will resonate with us, motivating us to ask critical questions, push the boundaries of our understanding, and pursue excellence in our research work. Therefore, I encourage each and every one of you to actively engage in this valedictory session, to listen attentively, and absorb the profound wisdom that Sir imparts. His words have the power to ignite a spark within us, motivating us to achieve new heights in our research pursuit. As we bid farewell to this workshop, let us carry forward the knowledge we have gained in last 7 days, the connection we have formed here, and the inspiration we have received. Let us embrace the challenges that come to ethnographic research and seek collaborative solutions. The relationship we have cultivated here will serve as a foundation of future collaboration and collective growth. As we conclude this valedictory session, let us embark on the future research endeavors with a renowned sense of purpose and commitment to conducting meaningful research with integrity. May we publish our findings with rigor and contribute to the advancement of knowledge in the field of ethnographic research. Last, thank you all for being part of this incredible journey. I wish you all the best in your research pursuit, and may you continue to make significant impact in the world of ethnographic research. Thank you once again, and best wishes to each and every one of you. Over to you, Bikram.
Thank you, sir. Now, to add a different flavor to today's proceedings, we actually have a musical performance. We have Dr. Sarala Das with us, with her own rendition of Hostir Konya, one of the most iconic and well-recognized Gwalporia folk songs, by, of course, the very virtuosic Pratima Borua Pandey. Dr. Das is an assistant professor at Department of Assamese, Bahana College, and she will be accompanied today by Jintu Neuk on Dutara and Ranjit Hoikia on Dogo. Ma'am, if you're here with us, please.
কি হলো ও মিডুল আহাচোন ভিডিঅ'টো নহয় ন মিডুল 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 আহাচোন
Sarala Beda, you are audible. আপোনাক শুনা পাই আছো।
অডিবল আচ্ছা মিডুল আহাচোন মিডুল আহা ভিডিঅ'টো কি হৈছে
Itu mute. Gimana itu?
ঠিকে আছে নাই হোৱা ভিডিঅ'টো লাগে অ এইটো নহয় এইটো ৰবাচোন ছেটিংছত যাওঁ কি হ'ব এইটো
Sarala Beda, you can go without the video.
কি নহয় আজিহে টাৰ্ণ কেমেৰা গেট পাৰমিশ্যনটো টাৰ্ণ কেমেৰা বুলি কৈছে আহাচোন মিডুল
Sarala, Sarala, please.
হয় হয়
ভিডিঅ'টো অন নকৰাকে তুমি আৰম্ভ কৰাচোন।
Okay, ma'am. Good afternoon to everyone. Our respected principal, ma'am, our speaker, Dr. Sir, our faculties and research scholar of different places of India. A very good afternoon to all of you. And our members, every members of management team of our workshop. I want to sing a song of Pratima Borua Pandey, who was a famous folk singer of Assam, legend of Assam. So I shall try to sing her song, and if there is some wrong, then pardon me, please. হস্তির কন্যা বাহমনের নারী মাথায় নিয়া তাম্বুলসী সখী হাতে সোনার ঝাড়ি সখী ও মোর হায় হস্তির কন্যারে খানি দয়া নাই মাহু তক লাগিয়া রে হস্তির কন্যা বামনের নারী মাথায় নিয়া তাম্বুলসী সখী হাতে সোনার ঝাড়ি সখী ও মোর হায় হস্তির কন্যা রে খানি দয়া নাই বাহু তক লাগিয়া রে বাড়ি বাড়ি কিলিতে পঙ্কি কালি পাহাড়তে পড়িয়া বাড়ি গৌরি পুড়িয়া মা হতে কাঁদে সখী ঘর বাড়ি ছাড়িয়া সখী ও মোর দোতাল হাতির মাহুত রে যে মাহুত ছাড়িয়া যায় নারীর মন মোর পুড়িয়া রয় রে ও মোর হায় হস্তির কন্যা রে খানি দয়া নাই মাহু তক লাগিয়া রে আরে আকাশেতে নাই রে চন্দ্র তোরা কেমন চলে আর যে নারীর পুরুষ নাই ও তার রূপে কি কাম করে সখী ও মোর শাড়িন হাতির মাহুত রে সেদিন মাহুত শিকার যায় নারীর মন মোর কাঁদিয়া রয় রে ও মোর হায় হস্তির কন্যা রে খানি দয়া নাই মাহু তক লাগিয়া রে আরে আয়ক ছাড়িলাম বায়ক ছাড়িলাম সোনার পুরী আর বিয়া করিয়া ছাড়িয়া আসিলাম সখী অল্প বয়সের নারী সখী ও মোর শাড়ির হাতি Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. It is indeed a pleasure to know that we have been able to keep the legacy of maestros such as Pratima Pandey Barua, as well as the rich landscapes he comes from, alive within us. Of course, folk compositions and the diverse forms in which they are interpreted may actually contribute further to our discussions in terms of ethnographic authority, not to mention the non-human connotation of the lyrics in the age of Anthropocene. But anyway, moving on. Next, we come to one of the high points in today's valedictory session. It is my honor and privilege to inform you that today we have with us Professor Akhil Dutta sir as a guest of honor. To be fair, as one of the most recognizable, respected, and revered public intellectuals of Assam, he needs no introduction. And yet, I'm being entrusted with the monumental task of introducing him. I'm apprehensive that I won't be able to do justice to his vast career and contribution within a few words, but yet I will try. Professor Akhil Dutta is a professor and the former head of the Department of Political Science, Gauhati University, a public intellectual par excellence. He is renowned for the organic convergence between his academic works and his grassroots advocacy based on sharp, incisive socio-political commentary. He received his MA and MPhil from University of Delhi and his doctorate from Gauhati University, a regular contributor to numerous academic publications. His academic interests encompass electoral politics, migration, narratives of development and environment, state and civil society, culture and ideology, peace and conflict, citizenship, and of course, political theory. A bilingual author and commentator, his nuanced and reflective socio-political commentaries are a regular feature in numerous newspapers and periodicals. He is the executive editor of Notun Podatik, the honorary chairperson of Brahmaputra Institute of Research and Development, and the president of Social Science Research Community. He has been a Rotary Peace Fellow at Chulalongkorn University, Bangkok, led the Indian think tank delegation to China in 2017, and has been a visiting fellow at University of Delhi and JNU. And of course, the number of publications and books he has to credit is too vast to mention here within the brief amount of time we have. Renowned for his rootedness with the everyday cultural and political aspirations of the people, and for his endorsement of an inclusive, just, and democratic society. Over the last few decades, Professor Dutta has cemented his position as a people's intellectual, one who has guided and guarded our conscience without fail. It is indeed a great privilege for me personally and professionally to welcome him to Bahana College. And I hope his words and his vast pool of experience will prove to be of immense value to our participants and our organizers. So without further ado, we'd like to go to him. Sir, if you're here with us.
Sir, you are in mute mode.
Sir, your microphone is
All right,
muted.
all right. Okay. Just give me a second. Okay. Okay. I'm just a second. All right. Okay. Uh, sure. Thank you very much. I sincerely thank the organizers for inviting me to this very important workshop. Am I audible?
Yes, you are, sir.
Okay. My only back screen is dancing. I think you listen to my words, not to the visuals. Okay. Honorable Principal of Bahana College, Dr. Soikia, the IQAC coordinator, Dr. Bora, and the whole team which has been responsible for organizing this very important workshop on ethnographic research. I could see the experts that you have invited for this workshop, including Professor Samir Kumar Das, and who already have spoken at length on the important dimensions and criticalities involved in the process of ethnographic research. As a guest, you call it guest of honor, in a valedictory session, I am not supposed to speak at length on ethnographic research, but I'll be trying to speak on something which I consider to be very important when we undertake research. The fundamental question I keep on asking to myself and to the researchers: why do we do research? Is it important to do research? And if it is important to do research, why is it important? As a political scientist, when we raise this question, it takes us back to a lot of theoretical debates in the discipline. Uh, if you look back, or if you go back to the school of behavioralism, or the debates during the time of behavioral revolution, they were emphasizing on the fact that we have to be value neutral, we have to be objective. Our whole purpose of our research is to enhance knowledge, expand information base, but it doesn't have any necessary linkage with social transformation, qualitative transformation of the society. In other words, we take a value neutral position, and that was in 1950s. That was immediate in the period of post Second World War. And that kind of approach, that be value neutral, don't be normative, don't talk in terms of just society. It is not your task as a researcher. Your task as a researcher is to bring in information, bring in knowledge uh, that enhances the capacity of the discipline in terms of predictions, what is going to happen, in terms of putting the things in a statistical way to understand why has it happened, how has it happened, but not necessarily asking has it been happened for good or has it been happened for bad. But that behavioral approach was challenged from within the school of behavioralism, and all of you are familiar. David Stern, who happened to be the president of all American Political Science Association, and was considered as one of the architects of behavioral revolution. He himself became very critical about it and was a pioneer of post-behavioralism when he brought in the credo of relevance, telling that techniques are important in research, but more important is the substance. In other words, it is important that we get a knowledge, it is important that we get a information, but knowledge and information are not ending itself or ending themselves. There are vital values or vital normative dimensions behind bringing in information and knowledge, and that is to bring in qualitative transformation of the society. I think almost all of us today fall in that category, even if we talk in terms of qualitative research, uh, but then even a quantitative research, but quantification in our research doesn't end in itself. We use the quantities or quantification methodologies for qualitative understanding of the greater social realities, and also thinking in terms of our contribution towards qualitative transformation of the society. I keep on I keep on referring to one stanza of a very important song composed by Jyoti Prasad Agrawala. Joyo alu komoy onadi onanto prohari biswa jiwana jyoti. Joyo alukomoy onadi onanta prohari biswa jiwana jyoti. Let there be victory of light, transforming all boundaries. There are boundaries that keeps you confined, that creates a lot of hindrances towards your journey, for light. Therefore, it is important that all of we fight, all of we struggle, to bring in light to the social processes, to the cultural processes, to the societal realities. If you look at the IPTM movement, Indian People Theatres Association movement, which was very active in Assam from 1950s to 1970s, and all stalwarts of our cultural community, Jyoti Prasad, Vishnu Rama, Bhupen Hajorika, Kekhob Mohanto, Kogen Mohanto, Dilip Sharma, Hudokina Sharma, Roman Borua, and you can add the names. All of them were the product of this IPTM movement. Now, this IPTM movement was a movement, if we speak in Jyoti Prasad and Agrawala's language, it is a journey towards light. Puhoror dikhe dhaboman hua jitu goti, that was the contribution of IPTM movement. Bhupen Hajorika has a very interesting composition. Nami aha hundor Hena Hilpi dol এৰা সপোন ধেমালি বাধা যদি নিদিয়া পিখাচি আন্ধাৰক ধৰা হ'ব ৰণেৰে ৰাঙলী. Very interesting. And prevent the darkness. Now, this light in darkness, I think it is very important when we talk in terms of research, social science research. We need to understand that this light and darkness are not something to be understood in a very literal sense, literal sense. It has greater meaning, or it has comprehensive and critical meaning. Jyoti Prasad Agrawala, all of you know, he lived only for 48 years, 1903 to 1951. At the later stage of his life, when he was very close to his date, particularly after India had achieved independence, he was trying to understand and how do you move towards light and how we bring in light, and understanding light in terms of culture, and understanding culture in terms of all values that we talk about: equality, freedom, liberty, justice, and so on and so forth. In 1948, there was a very important event which was happening in Shivsagar. অসমৰ সাংস্কৃতিক সংঘ কৃষি সংঘৰ অধিৱেশন হৈছিল. It was the annual function of one of the cultural organizations, of which Jyoti Prasad happened to be the president, and he delivered a very long lecture which was later on published as Hilpir Prithibi, the artist's world. Now, if you read that particular speech, which is quite long, it has a lot of interesting dimensions. That was the period that India had achieved independence. We had debating what kind of constitution we'll have. Already United Nations was also debating on what kind of rights that we'll be talking about, which culminated in the form of Universal Declaration of 48 when it was adopted on 10th December 1948. Okay. Now, Jyoti Prasad, if you read it carefully, he was telling us something very interesting. He was telling that culture has to be understood as the opposite of evils. Evils have to be understood in terms of inequalities, in terms of atrocities, in terms of subordination, subjugation, either of the colonial authorities or of the feudal system that we are encircled by. And we need to be in a position to understand who creates these evils. In Assamese, he called it Duskriti, and he was trying to make a difference between Hoskriti and Duskriti, culture and the evil. And he was mentioning that, the evil, interesting composition in the sense that when you are trying to understand how have we been subjugated, how have we been brought under the colonial bondage, he was reminding us that this was not something because the Indian people are not capable enough of ruling themselves, but it was the culmination of the process of capitalism, which was resulting, or which was consolidating in the form of imperialism, capitalism and imperialism. Now, why have I brought in this particular issue? We are talking about ethnographic research. Ethnographic research, and you have already talked about it, comprehensively discussed about it. Now, ethnographic research is a qualitative research. And when we say qualitative research, we are trying to understand that research that we do is not for the sake of research. Research that we are doing is to understand three things, or it's to capture three things. One is the information, second is the knowledge, third is how to move towards wisdom, or how a given community creates its own wisdom. That's the sustainability of the communities. So the qualitative research, or for that matter, ethnographic research, is a qualitative research, and that qualitative research aims at gathering information, acquiring knowledge, and also trying to understand the intricacies, insights, dynamics of the wisdom. So information, knowledge, and wisdom are three important things that we need to understand when we talk about qualitative research, particularly about ethnographic research. So this is the first point I wanted to make. Well, we know that ethnographic has primarily been driven by the anthropologists. I'll talk about two important anthropologists. One is Andre Bethe, who happened to be one of the legendary anthropologists and also sociologists. He had his anthropological studies in Calcutta University. Then he moved to Delhi University, Delhi School of Economics, and did his PhD there under M.N. Srinivasan. Well, we know that M.N. Srinivasan was one of the pioneers in the studies and research in sociology in India, and he had a lot of contributions. So Andre Bethe, an anthropologist who had his degrees, MA in Calcutta University, moved to Delhi University, Delhi School of Economics, joined at that point probably as a lecturer. Then he was doing his research on research under MS Prabhakar. And he was doing an ethnographic studies. What did he do? his title, which finally came out as a book, Class, Caste and Power. Class, Caste and Power, Caste, Class and Power. That is based on a village study. He had gone to the village, stayed in the village, and uh, you know, uh, try to understand the power dynamics in a particular village, how caste is a power dynamic, how class is a power dynamic, and how one reinforces the other. Means class and caste are two important domains of power, and one reinforces the other. In other words, you cannot understand caste as a separate category, class as a separate category. They are separate categories because one is economic by nature, the other is ascriptive. You get it by birth, but the class and caste are such categories that one complements the other. So class, caste, and power is a very important example of ethnographic studies. And how did he do it? He had gone down to the village, stayed with the people, tried to understand the power dynamics in the society and how a village indeed functions. What are the multiple layers of domination, subjugation, power dynamics, and how does it create numerous forms of power? This is an ethnographic study. There are a lot, even in Northeast India, many people. Another Charan Bhagavati, for example, he had gone abroad and stayed with a community on which he had done his PhD. And he was a legendary anthropologist of our time. And we had the opportunity and we had the fortune to meet him, to interact with him. And for example, when he will travel to the hills, and he had a different way of looking at the things, observation. He will not look at the surroundings like you and me. He will try to understand the deeper dynamics of the greater realities or the societal and economic dynamics. Therefore, when we talk about the ethnographic studies, two things are important. One is the dynamics, other is the ecosystem. So ethnographic study is a study about the dynamics of a particular community and also the ecosystem. I think these are two important categories that we need to have deeper understanding when we talk about ethnographic studies. Now, dynamics, as I mentioned when I talked about Andre Bete, that he was trying to understand a particular village or the past structures of the village, and he was trying to understand which are the most important dynamics of power. And he realized that both caste and class are two important dynamics of power. And that creates a kind of ecosystem. That ecosystem is all about, everything. That what are the behavior of the people, what are the livelihood resources of the people, what is the kind of relationship that they have with the ecology. Ecosystem is also about your relationship with the ecology. And ecology, remember, is not only about environment. Ecology is something bigger, something greater than that. Ecology is not only about trees and rivers and the hills. It is also about your livelihood, your culture, your folk culture, your way of handling your day-to-day realities, and so on and so forth. Therefore, when we talk about research, ethnographic research, I think we move from information to knowledge to the wisdom. That is our mission. And we start with understanding the dynamics and the ecosystem. I think these are two important things that we need to understand when we talk about ethnographic research. There are different methodologies of even ethnographic research. One is the insider. You become a part of the insider, or you become a part of the community. You learn the language, you learn their culture, you mix up with the people, and you try to understand the dynamics. That is one way of understanding, and Andre Bete was trying to do that. The other is you may not necessarily be part of the community when you're trying to understand it. You have your own theoretical premises, you have your conceptual premises, and at every moment you are trying yourself, you are trying to evaluate, or you are trying to question yourself, you are trying to interrogate yourself. You become a model of interactions with yourself. So you look at the community, you have a conceptual understanding, you have a theoretical understanding, you have a lot of studies on the particular community itself, and then you are trying to understand, am I right? Am I understanding it properly? Or my understanding and the dynamics of the ecosystem of the community, do they converge or diverge? So that is another important thing we need to understand. That takes us to the third important question, and that is all about whether we understand. We take up, for example, I have recently completed a project on street vendors, contested urban space, street vendors in Gauhati and Bangkok. Bangkok, I couldn't go because of the pandemic, but I had the opportunity of understanding the hardships and realities and struggles of this particular community. Now, for me as a political scientist, I didn't start with the community themselves. It was not that I didn't have any pre-understanding. I didn't have any prior understanding what is the contested urban space all about, or what are the street vendors, or what are the definite laws regarding regulating of the street vendors. I had a different approach. I started reading the literature on contested urban space and also literature on street vendors, both in India and also in Thailand, Bangkok. Now, I started with some theoretical premises. As I mentioned, this is contested urban space. Now, what is this contested urban space? There have been a lot of debates on it. For example, there is a French sociologist, very famous, a Marxist, neo-Marxist sociologist. His name is Henry Lafabo. The spelling is something different. French pronunciation is not exactly with the composition of the word. Now, Henry Lafabo had a very interesting, he brought out, or he came up with a notion called production of space. Space is something which is not given. Space is not something. For example, I have bought a flat in an apartment. Now, this apartment is also a space, but this space is a product. It's a product, and there are a lot of forces involved in that. And the larger forces that he talked about, or the main critical forces that he talked about, is capitalism. And as a French sociologist, he was trying to understand how Paris evolved from it. Paris as a city evolved, how Paris was manufactured, how Paris was produced. It is not something that Paris was a given place. A lot of people were there. They were living harmoniously. They were living, fighting with each other. And that evolved automatically. It's not that kind. The urban space is constantly being intervened, constantly being manufactured by larger economic forces. Look at smart city in Gauhati today. This city, the way this city has been, re-articulated, the image of the city, the way the image of the city has been re-articulated, reframed. Now, if you look at Henry Lafabo and also another very important sociologist, he's basically a geographer, David Harvey, who has a very interesting book called Rebel Cities. Now, if you look at the Rebel Cities by David Harvey, he will also argue, and this is all about the commoners protesting against the very construct of the city. But then if you go into the depth of his analysis, he will also argue that the urban spaces are produced by a lot of forces, and basically the capitalist forces. How does it happen? Because there are surplus capital. There are corporates, there are capitalists who have a lot of surplus, and they always search for investment. And while searching for investment, urbanization, urban localities have been one of the important destinations. And therefore, the smart cities that you look at today, you see around the country, in different cities of the country, I think this is important to keep in mind, that the cities which are, changing, transforming, it's not happening in a very spontaneous and natural way. It has its linkages with, global forces, economic forces. If you look at who have invested in the flyovers, who have invested in this water projects, for example, water projects and so on and so forth. Yes, Somnath Party has also given us some interesting insights about it. Now, therefore, when I was trying to understand, the contested urban space, I started with the theories. But theories will not be good enough. Therefore, I had gone to the street vendors. But before going to the street vendors, I had also tried to understand the formation of the street vendors and how state has tried to regulate them. Had the state taken responsibility of them, or has state discarded, and so on and so forth. Also looked at many of the Supreme Court verdicts on the street vendors. Now, why have I mentioned it? Let me come, therefore, to the other point that I wanted to mention. Ethnographic study, when you talk about, it's not only identifying a community, going to them, trying to understand their dynamics. It is also important that we understand that this is an embedded community. This is not an isolated community. So ethnographic study, when you talk about, you need to have that understanding in mind, that you are going to a community, you are trying to understand the dynamics, you are trying to understand the kind of problems that they have been confronting. But the most important thing you need to understand is this, that is an embedded community. We are living at an age. Now, when the classical anthropologists were working on it, they were basically working with the remote tribal communities, which were not that much embedded. They were still living in quote unquote isolated places. But now at this moment, when we're talking about the ethnographic study, this embeddedness needs to be understood properly. That brings in the other important dimension, that there is a constant interaction between the micro and the macro. Macro is the national economic processes or global economic processes, also the policies undertaken by the government, having implications on the community, whatever community it may be. For example, there could be a ethnographic study of the Anganwadi workers. There could be a ethnographic study of the ASHA workers. There could be ethnographic studies of MDMS cook. There could be ethnographic study of street vendors that I have mentioned. There could be ethnographic study of the housemaids in the cities. There could be ethnographic studies on the migrant laborers working in the construction sector. So you can have different themes of ethnographic studies. But when you do it, as a social scientist, we need to remember that these are embedded communities. These are not isolated communities. That embeddedness needs to be understood both critically and comprehensively. That takes you to what I call micro and macro processes. And when we say macro and micro processes, there are a lot of things that we need to understand. Now, we are living in a moment which I call the age of appropriation and age of dispossession. Age of appropriation, as I mentioned, look at the smart city. Cities have become the avenues of appropriation of resources, appropriation of spaces on the part of these global capitalist forces or the international banking system and so on and so forth. But there is also growing dispossession. Look at the housing tax, for example, housing tax, urban housing taxes. Look at the electricity charges, a lot of many other things. So there is growing dispossession, people becoming unable of sustaining themselves and living the places and so on and so forth. Therefore, it is important when we do ethnographic study, we also understand these dynamics of appropriation and dynamics of this dispossession. Market, state, primordial loyalties have been the dominant forces right at the moment. You have the new liberal economy, market economy, every time talking in terms of liberalization, privatization, FDIs, and so on and so forth. But remember that in the classical model of liberalism, state was playing a very reduced, very minimal role. The terminology we used was laissez-faire. Laissez-faire means leave me alone. Individuals are asking that don't interfere in my functioning. But right at the moment when we're talking about new liberal state or new liberal economy, state is not minimal. State has become very optimal through surveillance, through populism, the kind of populist policies that government has been, adopting. And also remember the primordial loyalties. Christopher Zeffelot has called it ethnic democracy. We are living at the age of ethnic democracy. Our universal concerns for rights are gradually, reducing or gradually transforming to identity-driven politics. We are talking more in terms about the community rights or the identity rights, identity concerns, and so on and so forth. So understanding the moment, I think, is also very, very important. So market, state, primordial royalties, and ethnic democracy, I think these are very, very important things that we need to understand when we talk about qualitative research, for that matter, ethnographic research. To sum up, I think I should sum up because I have spoken maybe for half an hour or 20 minutes, 25 minutes or so. To sum up, I'll request all my esteemed friends and colleagues, participants in the workshop, that when you do research, I think our endeavor is to understand the critical dynamics that make and unmake the communities, societies. Our endeavor should also aim at transformation. Somebody will be asking, and that takes me to the final point. I was interacting with my own supervisor, own teacher at Delhi University, Professor Manoranjan Mohanty, and many other friends. The fundamental question which is now coming up, remember, do we start with a methodology? When we start research, is it important that we start with a methodology? That has also now been debated. We had a RSC presentation, Research Advisory Committee presentation by a scholar. The department is still in an initial phase. I was also arguing that should we be so concerned about the methodology? In other words, we shouldn't have a very watertight, very regimented methodology. Methodology also evolves. That needs to be kept in mind, and that is also applicable in case of the ethnographic research. But we have an orientation. Ethnographic research is basically qualitative research, and that qualitative research aims at understanding the dynamics that make and unmake the communities, that make and unmake the societies. So let me conclude here, and I thank everyone for the opportunity being given to me to have to place before you my ideas on the research, qualitative research. And I thank the fraternity of Bahana College. Also congratulate you for your NAC accreditation grade. Now you have done extremely well, and you have become a model college. And the principal, Dr. Soikia, I congratulate you personally for steering the kind of communitarian kind of environment and providing a kind of leadership towards achieving such kind of cognition through the NAC assessment. Thank you very much. And it happens that you have added a lot of adjectives. It happens, but then adjectives are more ornamental than substantive. And Pankaj has said that I happen to be his PhD supervisor. In other words, there is also a nexus here, but I have tried to, calm about the nexus and try to place before you whatever I understand by qualitative research. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. And again, I must reiterate that it has been an honor and a delight to listen to you. So focused on how research have morphed from a normative, value-neutral approach to one that actively informs social transformation. For the wisdom it generates, which adds to the sustainability of the community. By referring to the works of Andre Bete, he focused on how the dynamics and the ecosystem are crucial components to take into account while one is invested in ethnographic practices. At the same time, he also drew our attention to the pros and cons of how the insider and the outsider perspective works by focusing on his own work on contested urban spaces, and of course on Henry Lefebvre's work on how these spaces are produced, intervened, and rearticulated. What ethnographers need to do, he emphasized, is to understand the embeddedness of spaces and communities and the morphing of the primordial loyalties critically and comprehensively in what he calls the age of appropriation and disposition. Of course, while alluding to numerous references to Jyoti Prasad and his colleagues in the IPTA, he also urged us to seek the transformative potential embedded in a trajectory towards light, Joyo Alukomoyo, or the victory of light, light as in freedom, quality, justice, and liberty that we all strive for. As students and practitioners within the confines of institutional academia, I'm positive that his words will inspire us to seek active convergence of our own work with the qualitative transformation of our communities, of our societies, with the end goal, of course, being a just society. We thank you, sir, again, and we hope you shall allow us to invite you to further endeavors by Bahana College, academic or otherwise, and we are very grateful. Moving on, we now have a musical performance to again add a flavor. So please join me in welcoming one of our participants for this. May I invite Dr. Digonto Kolita, Assistant Professor, Bimola Prasad Soriha College, Nagargara. Sir, if you're ready, please join us.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Honorable guest of honor, respected Principal Ma'am, respected dignitaries, Coordinator IQSC Bahana College, and dear participants. It was really a very nice workshop that I have ever done. I would like to thank the organizer giving me the opportunity to sing a song here. Although I am not a singer, but if I get the chance, I never give up the chance. So I would like to sing here a Assamese song sung by Anupam Soikia. ও ভাই হত এবার ভাবি চাবি দে দেশখন কুশলে ৰাখিবি দে ও ভাই হত এবার ভাবি চাবি দে দেশখন কুশলে ৰাখিবি দে মোৰ সোণৰে অসমত ৰূপৰ শিকলি বান্ধিব নিদিবি দে ও ভাই হত এবার ভাবি চাবি দে দেশখন কুশলে ৰাখিবি দে ও ভাই হত এবাৰ ভাবি চাবি দে তেজেৰে ধুৱাব নিদিবি দে এদিন দুদিন কৰি বহুদিন গ'ল সোণৰ অসমখনি ৰূপৰো নহ'ল হিচাবৰ তহবিল চাইছনে নাই তেজৰ বাহিৰে কিবা পাইছনে নাই হেৰু এবাৰ ভাবি চাবি নহ'লে নাবাচে আমাৰ অসমীয়া ও ভাই হত এবাৰ ভাবি চাবি দে দেশখন কুশলে ৰাখিবি দে ভাই হত এবাৰ ভাবি চাবি দে তেজেৰে ধুৱাব নিদিবি দে বাই ভনী ককাই ভাই আছে তোলে বাট চাই তই চাগে গমেই পোৱা নাই। বাই ভনী ককাই ভাই আছে তোলে বাট চাই, তই চাগে গমেই পোৱা নাই। দেউতা নৰিয়াত মাৰো নৰিয়াত, তই চাগে খবৰ পোৱা নাই। দেউতা নৰিয়াত মাৰো নৰিয়াত, তই চাগে খবৰ পোৱা নাই। ককাই কৈছিলে বাৰুদেৰে, যুঁজিলে নহব আজি দেশৰ বাবে। আইতাই কৈছিল কলমেৰে, যুঁজিছো চিন্তা প্ৰগতিৰে। তেহেতে জ্বৰ চেকুৰাবোৰ সোণৰ টুকুৰা হৈ খুৱাব অসমীয়াই। ও ভাইহঁত এবাৰ ভাবি চাবি দেই, দেশখন কুশলে ৰাখিবি দেই। ভাইহঁত এবাৰ ভাবি চাবি দেই, তেজেৰে ধুৱাব নিদিবি দেই। ভাইহঁত এবাৰ ভাবি চাবি দেই, দেশখন কুশলে ৰাখিবি দেই। ধন্যবাদ, থেংক ইউ।
Thank you, sir. It was indeed a wonderful performance. We are
Thank you.
very grateful for sharing your musical talent with us, not to mention the very poignant and tropical nature and the relevance of the lyrics. And thank you again. And moving on, this workshop would not have been possible without the active, engaging, and energetic performance and participation by our participants from all corners of India. As organizers, we'd like to hear their takeaway, their thoughts, comments, and suggestions, so that we are able to further improve upon it for any future editions of this workshop. So we'll take comments from our participants now. Due to the paucity of time, we shall be able to take only a couple of comments. So if any participants are willing to share, they may raise their hands, unmute their microphones, and address the audience. If any participants have any comments, they may unmute themselves and address the audience. Well, it appears that we do not have any comments or suggestions, so we'll head towards the end of the session. Now I'd request Dr. Anupam Chanda to offer the vote of thanks. Dr. Chanda is the librarian of Bahana College and one of the conveners of this workshop. Over to you, sir. Sir, you're muted.
Yeah, am I audible?
Yes, you are now.
Yeah, thank you, Vikram. So, a very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of IQAC Bahana College, I, Dr. Anupam Chanda, convener of this national level 1 week online workshop on research methodology for ethnographic study, would like to extend my heartfelt gratitude to all of you for being part of this workshop. Today, we came together to express our appreciation and acknowledge the contribution of those who have made this gathering possible. First and foremost, I would like to express my deepest gratitude to our workshop chairperson, Dr. Santana Sokia ma'am, who is the principal of Bhavana College, and today's guest of honor, Professor Akhil Ranjan Dutta, Professor and former Head, Department of Political Science, Gauhati University, for gracing us with his presence and sharing his valuable insight and experiences. I'd like to extend a special thanks to all our resource persons for their informative and thought-provoking sessions. For that, I'd like to mention the name Dr. Sabina Yasmin Sheikia, Associate Professor, Department of Sociology, Gauhati University; Professor Shamir Kumar Das, Professor, Department of Political Science, University of Calcutta; Dr. Alok Kumar Pandey, Department of Anthropology, University of Hyderabad; Dr. Ketupuri, Department of Political Science, Kohima College, Nagaland; Professor Anil Kumar Boro, Department of Folklore Research, Gauhati University; Dr. Shantana Shaikia, Principal, Bhavana College; Dr. Bharati Bharali, Department of Communication and Journalism, Gauhati University; Dr. Swargajit Gohain, Associate Professor of Sociology and Anthropology, Ashoka University; Dr. Meghna Chaudhary, Department of Folklore Research, Gauhati University; and Professor Dibyajyoti Bhattacharya, Professor, Department of Statistics, China University, Silchar. Your wisdom and expertise have truly enriched our understanding of the subject matter and inspired us all. I'd also like to extend my sincere appreciation to the organizers and the planning committee, Dr. Pankaj Vora, convener of this workshop, Dr. Rima Rava, co-convener, and Dr. Sangeeta Das, co-convener of this workshop. I'd also like to extend my sincere appreciation to the moderators of the workshop, Dr. Kasturi Goswami, Assistant Professor, Department of Economics; Dr. Parveen Iraqi, Assistant Professor, Department of Geology; Dr. Champak Dutta, Assistant Professor, Department of Chemistry; Mr. Bikram Bora, Assistant Professor, Department of History; Dr. Tosifur Rahman, Assistant Professor, Department of Statistics; Dr. Pankaj Bora, Assistant Professor, Department of Mathematics; Ms. Munmi Bora, Assistant Professor, Department of English; and Ms. Pranjun Priyam Bora, Assistant Professor, Department of English, who have worked tirelessly to ensure the success of this event. Your dedication, attention, detail, and commitment to excellence have truly made a difference. Our special gratitude goes out to all the participants and attendees who have taken the time to join us for all 7 days. Your active engagement, enthusiasm, and valuable contribution have made this gathering truly meaningful and impactful. Without your active participation, it would not be possible to conduct such a great event. Once again, thank you all. A heartfelt thanks goes to our collaborator, Dr. Surya Sutia, Principal, Tinshukia College, and Sutia Jatiyo Gobeshona Parishad, for their generous support and belief in our vision. Your contributions have played a vital role in making this event a resounding success. Last but not the least, I would again like to express my deepest appreciation to all the staff, volunteers, and behind the scenes team members who have worked tirelessly to ensure the smooth running of this event. Your dedication, hard work, and professionalism have been truly commendable. Once again, thank you all for being part of this national level 1 week online workshop on research methodology for ethnographic study. Your presence and support have made a significant difference. We hope that the knowledge shared and the connections made during this gathering will continue to have a positive impact on all of us. Thank you and best wishes to all.
Thank you, sir. It appears that we have a comment on the chat box in the text channel from Mr. Somnath Patirat. He's saying that he would like to say a few words. So, sir, if you're here, the floor is yours.
Yes, yes. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay. Hello, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Somnath Patil. I have been born and brought up in Raurkela, Odisha, and my ancestral village is located in the Saraikela, Kharswan district of Jharkhand. I did my postgraduate studies in modern history from the Center for Historical Studies, JMU, and undergraduate studies in history from the Hansraj College, University of Delhi. Currently, I'm working on the integration of princely states in Jharkhand and the broader idea of social conflicts as it was and has been in these princely states after the post-independence period. I enrolled for the workshop to understand ethnography better. Like an integral component part of my research is ethnography. And participant observation is something which has always been quite intriguing for me as a methodological approach. When I first read Professor Alpasha's book Night March, so there she describes how she spent around a fortnight with the Maoist revolutionaries in Jharkhand. So from there onwards, I always wanted to use this methodology, and from that time onwards, ethnography has always attracted me. There are some sessions which I was particularly interested in, like the very first session by Professor Samir Kumar Das, where he discussed about various thinkers and their approaches to the discipline of ethnography. So it was a good start. Then the third session by Dr. Ketokri was very crucial, as it was always much needed to incorporate ethics in any sort of research that we embark upon. The seventh session by Dr. Swargajyoti Gohen on reporting ethnographic findings also seemed very insightful to me, especially as it aided us to refine and mold our ethnographic writing styles. The ninth session by Professor Dibyajyoti Bhattacharya on various approaches to data analysis in ethnography. It introduced me and perhaps many others for the first time to a useful software like SPSS. And overall, one wonderful learning for me also occurred in Dr. Bharati Barali's sixth session. I feel glad to have come across the Kongthong village, which is uniquely known for whistling as a mode of establishing communication. And apart from that, broadly, there have been too many learnings throughout the course of this workshop. So, a very heartfelt gratitude to all the organizers who made this workshop possible. And I'm very glad to have participated in the workshop. Thank you so much. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Pati. I also did my master's and MPhil from Center for Historical Studies, JNU. So it's great to see someone from CHS, randomly come across someone from CHS actually online. But anyway, we move towards the conclusion of this week-long national workshop. My gratitude to our principal man, guest of honor, Professor Akhil Dutta sir, the conveners and the participants. Just for information, the participants shall receive the soft copies of the certificate of participation within 21 days, and the hard copies within a week after that. With that, thank you again, and we shall perhaps reconvene again if time and occasion permits. With this, we formally end today's session and the workshop itself to a rendition of the college song of Bahana College. Thank you.
তোমারে কণ্ঠ চির অনুসারিত জীবন গঢ়াৰ মানে সেয়েহে যাচিছো ভকতি হিয়া তোমাকে তীৰ্থ মানি অমৰ জ্যোতিৰে মোৱা যুগ জয়ী কৰিছো কামনা আমি এই যে আমাৰ অতিকে আপোন সাধনাৰ পুণ্য ভূমি জ্ঞানৰ জ্যোতিৰে জীৱন জ্বলোৱা জ্ঞানৰ মন্দিৰ তুমি জ্ঞানৰ জ্যোতিৰে জীৱন জ্বলোৱা জ্ঞানৰ মন্দিৰ তুমি এই যে আমাৰ অতিকে আপোন সাধনাৰ পুণ্য ভূমি সাধনাৰ পুণ্য ভূমি সাধনাৰ পুণ্য ভূমি সাধনাৰ পুণ্য ভূমি
With this, we conclude the entire week-long national workshop. And participants may leave now. If you have any queries, you may direct them in the group, in the WhatsApp group, or in the helpline numbers that were provided. So thank you again, and we'll probably see you in our future interviews.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Professor Dutta. And thank you, my IQAC team, very young and very dynamic, proud of you. Thank you, Dr. Sutia. Thank you, all the participants. Stay healthy, stay blessed. Thank you. I'm leaving the meeting now. Thank you.
The participants may leave the meeting now.